Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. I hope everyone is in their homes, and welcome to the new product development, a journey into product innovation. So, begin by just having a small brief about myself. So, I graduated from mechatronics engineering from the German University in Cairo. I hold both a bachelor and a master's of science. I am a project manager and I'm PMP certified, and I served as a board member on PMI Egypt chapter for almost 1 year, where I handled the project conference for PMI Egypt chapter in 2017. I'm also a certified product manager and AI PMM member and ambassador. I'm also an MPD certified product development expert, and currently I'm the PDMA Egypt chapter co-founder. And at the moment, I am working for Electrolux Home Appliances as a local category manager for washing machines, where my role in a nutshell is handling and leading the product innovation from end to end, starting from the ideation of a new product, exploring the consumer pain points, until the commercial launch of the product into the market. I would like just to break the ice in the webinar here by talking a little bit more about some new product development myths that we hear every day in our life. So either you are working in a new product development process or you encountered it. There are some myths that I would like to explore. So the first myth, and I think that most of us have heard this before, so the more features we put into a product, the more the customer will like it. And I can tell you that how much I've heard this myths several times, especially from guys in sales, with all due respect to all of them. But they all think that the more features you put into a product, the more the customers will like it, the more he will have a pitch sale that he can sell the product into the customer. And the best example about this is Google Glass. Google Glass is one of the major technological products that was launched in 2013 from Google, where it had lots and lots of features. And unfortunately, it didn't spend more than 6 months in the market, and it had a major failure. So disregarding that it had lots and lots of features, lots of technology, it did not pass and it failed. And if we started to explore what was the main reasons for the failure for Google Glass, so the first thing is that there was no clear pain point for Google Glass. So when you start launching a product into the market, the main problem that the companies face at this moment that there's no clear pain point. So you're putting a solution before finding a problem to solve. So the solution was before the problem, and that's one of the main reasons that led consumers to think, so why I'm going to use it? What is the benefit for me? So the main problem that companies face in the beginning is providing a solution, especially it's a technological one, before having a problem to solve. The second thing, and was a really big problem for such a device, is that it only had a battery power that's sufficient for almost 5 hours. So that's less than half a full day when you're working outside. And the guys at Google did not account for the technology of the batteries at that point of time, where it did not reach that aspect that it can sustain longer periods of time. So that was also a major reason for its failure. The other thing is that it's very high-end pricing. So a Google Glass in 2013 cost around $1,500. That's a huge sum of money for such a product, and it was not positioned to reflect the mainstream of consumers, but it was mainly to innovation or technology as aspirants. But it was not made for the mainstream of the market. Is the failure of external environmental mapping privacy. And I'd like to give here a small story that was one of the main failures of Google Glass. Google Glass had a camera and a mic where you can actually video and take photographs of your surroundings. And this was completely privacy invading, that consumers thought that if I have someone in a bar or in a restaurant and he's wearing such a glass, he can just video everything we're saying without anyone knowing, even though it had a small LED light at the front that shows it's doing videotaping. But also Google had to ban developers from doing recognition from this kind of device that can, for example, if I'm standing in a room and I have someone enter this room and the glass sees it or see him, it makes a facial recognition of his face and gets all the information, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, email account, history, all in front of the person wearing the glass. So the failure of understanding that this is a privacy invasion was that caused Google Glass to fail. So it's not just about features. There are lots of different aspects that has to be considered as well. The other myth is that, and you hear this always from people who are leading projects and people who are in top management, they always say high utilization of resources will improve performance. So if I have 10 employees, they all have to work at 100% of utilization. But because according to the queuing theory, as much as you go increasing the resource utilization, as much as you increase the waiting time of the resource itself. Where you have that, the reality is that there is project delays. So if you have someone who works 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, so 40 hours, and you are engaging him in 5 different projects just to fill his time to be at 100% utilization, this person will, in the end, he will have unfinished work in progress in huge amounts, which will lead to several project delays. And we just can summarize this by saying that this person is engaged in too much initiatives. So you are putting this person in too many initiatives. He is not able to focus in different projects, and you are overwhelming him just out of the myth that if you utilize the resources in a better way at 100% or a high utilization, you increase the performance. But this is actually a myth. So now that we have broken the ice with the introduction, what do we mean actually by new product development? So the word new product development, it's a definition. So the definition says it's the overall process of strategy, organization, concept generation, product and marketing plan, creation and evaluation, and commercialization of a new product. So you have an idea, and you take this idea, you do an evaluation of the idea, you start generating a concept, and then you evaluate this concept and see if it can hold a project, and you can get a product out of it. You start developing this product, designing it, then commercializing it, and selling it and launching it into the market. That's in a nutshell. That lots of people actually misinterpret the word product. So when we say product, some people say products and services, but that's actually wrong, because a product consists of both goods and services. So what do we mean actually by a product? It's a term used to describe all goods, services, and knowledge sold, and products are a bundle of attributes, features, functions, and uses that can either be tangible or intangible. In terms of having a physical good, and intangible in the terms that you are having a service. So that's one of the major things that people actually misinterpret. So they say products and services, but a product consists of both goods, which are the tangible parts, and services, which are the intangible. And an example of this is Starbucks. It has two kinds of products. It has goods, which is the coffee that you take at the counter, and the service provided by the place itself. So it's a bundle of both. So a product can either be a good or a service or a mix of both. Example products are, for the goods, you have a washing machine, an iPhone, a Tesla car, a shirt. So it's anything tangible. All the other things that are intangible. So you have like Facebook, Amazon, Uber, Airbnb. All of these are services. And both goods and services are falling down under the product term. Some people try to understand, okay, so I have an idea and start to evaluate this idea and make a product and launch into the market. So are there several types of new product development? Yes, there are several types. And if we try to explore this, you can see in the picture here, types or two axes where we can evaluate the types of new product development. The first axe at the top here is the newness of the market. So am I launching this product in a new market, or is this a new product? Two axes define the types of new product development. One example that we can take, for example, if I have a low market newness and a low product newness. So it will be an improvement to existing products. What would be an ideal example of this? From the early 19th century started to improve on its existing products. As you can see from the picture here, they started evolving the product on several years until it reached this form in 2014. It's not a completely new product. It's not a completely new market. So they are just improving on existing products. That's the first type. And kind of improvement of existing products as the main, how can I say this, as the main stream of their profit, because this is like the cash cow for them. Another example is new product lines. So you have, it's a new market, but the product newness is a little bit medium. So an example of this is when Apple launched their iPhone and then their iPad. So initially they had the MacBook, and then they started launching the iPhone and the iPad. So they are started extending their product portfolio into new product lines. We all hear the term cost reduction. So when we do a cost reduction, it's, let's say the market's still new, but it's a medium product. So an example of a cost reduction is 5S, which was launched in 2015. So what Apple basically did is that they launched an iPhone 5S with metallic casing, and they saw that this was a little bit of an expensive product, so they wanted to do a lower cost version and a lower price version of this. So they launched the iPhone 5C with a plastic casing product. Come to the new to the world products. And when you hear new to the world product, these are the products that were launched for the first time ever. So these are the products that has the highest risk during the development and the highest risk during the launch. And this is where most companies are putting the huge sum of money into its R&D. So this digital camera, this was a completely new to the world product. We did not have a digital camera before. The other is a service, the car sharing service. This was completely new. As long as we had also, yes, taxis that we can call and get, but this type of new service from Uber was basically a new to the world product that led several other companies to start launching a copycat. So talk in the beginning about the new product development process. So in the new product development process, you have 5 main stages. The first stage is the opportunity identification and selection, where you have the innovation team in the company starting to scout for new ideas, either from the external, from the customers, from the suppliers, or doing this internally inside the company by getting information from employees in several different cross-functional areas. So I remember the first time when I joined Electrolux, we had something called iJam. It was a platform where every year we had a new, let's say we wanted to explore an idea into, for example, refrigeration or into cooking, and we had lots of people putting different ideas into this. And this can be the initial part where the company starts to explore the opportunity and the different opportunities that are coming from the internal people who are working inside the company itself. After we get all the opportunities and the ideas, we have the concept generation phase, where we take this idea, either it is in the form of a new technology, or in the form of a need, or in the form of physical form, and link it with something else. So if I have a need, I start looking for a technology to make a simple concept. Afterwards, we start evaluating this concept and starting to study it in qualitative and quantitative matters. And afterwards, we start to design and develop this kind of concept into a new product. And afterwards, we start into the launch. Look at the graph on the left. The most important thing that happens in the process is that there is lots of ambiguity and unclarity at the beginning. So you start having an idea, and you start developing this idea and enhancing it time after time until you start to generate a small concept. And as we go from the idea to the concept to the evaluation concept itself into a prototype and then to a full product, the clarity of the product itself starts to increase more and more, and we have a higher market value of the product itself. Now, for every stage that we have for the new product process, either the opportunity, the concept, the evaluation, development, we have to try to evaluate, should we go to the step or not? So you start with the opportunity identification, and then you start evaluate where should we look for a technology that combine with this need, where should we look for a form that they combine with this technology, and then you start to generate the concept. And then you start doing a screening phase. Would you say that this concept is worth the screening? And then you evaluate the project and say, should we go for development? And at this point, the spending is not that huge. So that's why many companies start to put some sort of where they do a deeper analysis. They start development, lots of costs are incurred by the company, and it becomes really difficult to go back. And after development, you start going back and forth, understanding if this development is working. You have a prototype, you start testing it with the consumers, and then you do the launch. And afterwards, you start evaluating, was it a successful launch or was it a failure? And we're going to see as we go forward what is the main reasons for projects to fail and for new product development process initiatives to fail. So there is something called a stage gate, as we explained before. So one example is that you have a discovery stage, and then you have the idea screening, which is the first gate. Then you have the adjustment of the scope of the idea, and then the second screening. And then you build a business case, and then testing and validation, and then launch and post-launch review. Now, the stage gate is like a linear process where you pass through several gates and finalize each process. Then you go to the gate to get an approval to continue the next phase or not. And I would say that the stage gate is not a problem, but the problem that we're seeing nowadays that companies misuse this kind of stage gate and blame at the end that the product has failed because we followed a linear process, not an agile one that has several iterations. But the stage gate in itself has its different products where you can use it, but it's not the main reason that why companies are failing. Companies are use the stage gate because they are misusing it, not because it has problems. So the main question, so now we know what's meant by new product development. The other question will be, okay, then why do a new product development? It's nice we do create a product, but why is it really important? You would be amazed that in 2014, a research was done that says that almost $100 billion invested in technical product development. That's a huge sum of money. And that is almost 7 years ago. How much this amount is today. So when we say that the new product development holds the answer to the firm's biggest problems, so how do new product development help the firm? The first thing is that it helps the firm to create a product differentiation. So I would like you to imagine that if all the companies are creating almost the same product, it becomes a commodity and a me-too product, and you only start buying from one company, not from the other, because of pricing or because of the campaigns they're doing on marketing, but not because of the value that the product is providing. Now, if a company have a good in place new product development process, it can create products that has differentiation from the other competitors in the market. And having a product that's differentiated gives the company the competitive advantage that it needs to compete in the market and has its own place and positioning inside the market. And this kind of competitive advantage leads the company to a higher profitability. So if I'm a company that has a different product that's differentiated and that delivers a specific value for its targeted market, this gives me a competitive advantage, which allows me as a company to put some premium pricing on my product that gives me the profitability needed for the company to sustain. If I have this kind of profitability, I will have my own market share that helps me to sustain business. So the main target is having business sustainability in the end. So you have heard before from different websites, different articles, that product failures reach up to 90%, but I would like to say that this is not actually right. Product failures is at around 40%. So almost 40% of all new product development launches fail every year. And let's into a more deeper. So let's say I have 100 idea. These 100 idea goes initial screening. And through the initial screening, they are reduced into 70 ideas. And then these 70 ideas, when they are going through, they are being reduced into 50 concepts. And then going through the development, out of these 50 concepts, only 30 new developed products will be developed. And then even when you have the 30 developed products, only 25 of them are launched. And out of these 25 launched products, only 15 products are successful. Now, you would tell me, okay, you said 40% in the beginning, and now we see 15 out of 100. No, the 40% I was mentioning is the percentage of successful products of the total launched products. So 15 of 25 is 60%. So this is the percentage of success of launched products, 60%. So we have 40% failure rate of products that are launched into the market. And we can actually see that every year we have lots and lots and lots of applications, for example, on iOS, Apple Store, or Google Play, and several of these applications don't make it to the next year. So we have a very high percentage, maybe with more than 40% in the software industry especially. Example of product failures is Apple Newton message pad. So this is a little bit an old product, but it has lots of lessons learned that we can take a look at. So this product signifies the risk of putting benefits last. So the early 2000s developed a product called Newton message pad. So basically, this was like a small tablet. Actually start writing on it, and the software recognizes your handwriting and converts it into text. Now, this kind of product have failed miserably due to several reasons. The first one, there was no clear pain point. So the guys at Apple started as the guys at Google started putting a technology into the market without a clear pain point tackled. At that point of time, people were using a simple pen and paper to document or to write things. And the value that was coming out of this Newton message pad was not really that good. The other problem was the fast launch without proper minimum viable product. So if you start searching on this on the internet, you will find that one of the main reasons that caused its failure that the software had lots of glitches in the text recognition. So you can actually start writing, but it does not recognize the text you're writing correctly, which was the main core messaging that they put behind this kind of product. So they did not do a minimal viable product, and they did not do they did a fast launch without a proper one. The other thing is its cost. So it was valued at that point of time at about $600, which is now taking account the inflation, around $1,200 for this kind of product. So it was a very high cost versus the substitutes, which was at that point of time a simple pen and paper. Also, it was missing the voice of customers. So Apple at that point did not take lead customers or do a very intensive research on such a product, the voice of the customer, and that was the last straw that caused this product to completely fail and disappear from Apple's portfolio. The other failure that we have, and I think everyone would know this, Windows Vista. So Apple had Microsoft had quite some failures with several products. The first one was actually with Windows Vista when they launched it in 2000s. So Windows Vista was much, much slower than its predecessor XP, and everyone who had an XP and started installing Windows Vista on his computer, the same one at that point of time, started seeing lots of lost speed in the software itself. If you had an old PC and you wanted to install Windows Vista, it was not really good. You had to replace your own computer, which was a really bad thing. Windows Vista had too much security pop-ups on every action, and that caused frustration for lots of people. And the last thing that caused Microsoft to run and get Windows 7 as soon as possible to replace it, that it was a very unstable platform and crashed regularly. So as you can see here, there are lots of pitfalls that Microsoft has taken that caused Windows Vista to fail. And unfortunately, they did not account for this as well when they launched Windows 8, which was replaced by Windows 10. So as we have seen now, what do we mean by a new product development and why new product development is essential? I would like to explore one last thing, which is the product concept. So what do we mean actually by a product? So ideally, we would have a need for a customer or a benefit that we need to provide, and we start searching for a technology that fit with this need. And with this technology and this need, we get a form and we have a product. So the technology permits us to develop a physical form or a service which is intangible that provides the benefit or satisfies the need. As you can see here, when the intersection of the need, the form, and the technology, you have a new product. And any combination of two of them is called the concept. So a concept is a combination between a need and a form, or a need and a technology, or a form and a technology. And from my perspective, I would say that the most important two are the need and form, and the need and the technology. Having a form, and the technology, and looking for and having them to look for a need to satisfy, and some companies misuse it. So, for example, several companies are starting to express that they are having a solution, and with this solution, they start looking for a problem that this solution can solve. And this is completely the wrong path. Ideally, you would have a problem, a pain point that the consumer have that you would like to explore, and afterward you start creating a solution for this problem. But going the other way around, you put the benefits last, as we have seen, for example, with Apple, and this will cause, with a high percentage of risk, your product to fail. The last part is that I wanted to let you know that for concepts, we can have one concept, for example, a need technology concept, and based on this concept, we have several different physical forms. So, for example, let's take this example. A brush that contains detergent which is refillable. So, this is the technology. Easy for the customer to attach the brush, and this is the benefit. So the benefit that it's easy for the customer to attach it to the brush, and the technology is the brush contains a detergent which is refillable. This same concept has been used by 3 different companies to produce 3 different products of 3 different physical forms. So with Lysol, it's an aerosol of cleanser that's mounted on the brush, and you push here, and you have the aerosol pushing here, and you use this kind of brush to clean the toilet. If you take a look on the scrubbing bubbles, it uses a disposable pad. So it's a disposable here, while the brush here is not disposable, so it's a different form, and it's a pad. Here you have a brush. With the Clorox, you have a round disposable sponge instead of a pad. So having a concept does not, having several companies having the same concept does not mean that they will all produce the same product. You can have one concept of a technology and a need that you can develop different physical forms based on. I would see the timing. I think that we run maybe too fast during this. I would like just to use the next 10 minutes to give some information about PDMA and the product development camp. So for the guys who don't know what's PDMA, PDMA is the Product Development and Management Association, which is the world foremost and for product managers and development professionals, practitioners, academics, and service providers. And PDMA has several chapters across the globe in North America, South America, Asia, and Europe, and Australia and New Zealand. And at the moment, we do not have a chapter in Africa. And I'm currently working with my founder, Professor Muhammad, to establish a new chapter in Egypt for PDMA. I hope that several of you on the call will be interested in joining this kind of initiative. That PDMA, as any other association, has a body of knowledge for the product development and management. And this body of knowledge, if you are interested into certification, you can use it into study for the certificate of the new product development professional, which is a high certificate in product development worldwide. Offers different assets in terms of toolbox and essentials or different topics like open innovation, design thinking, Also, they have a handbook on new product development. Talk about the product development camp. So as an initiative, because there is, let's say, we wanted to enhance or introduce the new product development in Egypt for the next period, and we wanted also to use the idea of the chapter. We are launching a new product development camp in Egypt this July in the American University in Cairo, and it will be around understanding what we mean by the product innovation and going through the 5 stages of the product development, from ideation, the concept generation and evaluation, and the product development and the launch. And it will be a hands-on workshop. So it will be 1 week from the 5th to the 9th of July this year. I hope that by that time we would have, let's say, finished with the Corona situation that's going worldwide, and hopefully everything becomes better. It will be located at the American University in Cairo in the new Cairo campus, and this is the registration link. If you have any more questions on this, please reach out to me. I will be more than happy to give you more information on it. I'm really finished too early during this presentation, about 29 minutes early. I think maybe I was too afraid to have too much details, but I think we have lots of time for Q&A. So,
Yes.
Mohammed?
Yes, thank you, sir, for your great presentation. I really enjoy the content and the way you are going through the presentation. I'm sure that we have a lot of questions here today. So please unmute yourself and start express yourself and ask whatever you would like to know more about the product development and PDMA. Or if you can just type in the chat box, I will be taking the question on the chat box also. Okay, but until we receive the new questions, I would like to say that a new process of starting the chapter in Egypt, you have the full support of Egypt chapter from the IIPA. We have a lot of experience in the past year and a half dealing in this legalization documents and working and community engagement in Egypt. I believe that you will have our full support to the community.
Thank you, Mohammed. Thank you. It means a lot. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So I have a question. Assalamu alaikum, everybody. Thank you, Saif, so much for this really insightful presentation. I mean, it was very nice to hear and learn more about new product development and your experience with this. So I have a question, I mean, that might be a bit confusing. So, I mean, what could be the difference between, I mean, developing a new product just in an a basic intuition, just I have an idea and then go to the workshop or grab a pencil and a paper and start sketching this idea and see what the material could be used for it or how could it be machined, and then start making this product, versus, I mean, following a structured and let's say a formal new product development process. What's the benefit of following such a structured process versus going and following my own intuition on developing a new product? So that's basically my question.
Thank you, Mohammed. So this is a very important question. Thanks a lot for asking it. So basically, when you start working with your intuition, you're doing something like hit and miss. So you're not following a structured process. And the main problem from product development point of view, is that new product development is a risk process in its terms. So you have a risk that your product, even if you do things correctly, if you follow a process correctly, there is a relatively high percentage of risk that your product will eventually fail. So even with the going through a process that you start to identify the customer pain point, you start creating an idea, you start evaluating this idea if it can be generating a concept and scouting for the technology that can benefit this idea. Even following this kind of structured process, it gives you a better advantage that you will have a higher probability of success But if you start working on your intuition, so I have an idea, I start to explore a little bit, okay, I think I can do it in this way. Following this kind of process, you are missing on lots of steps. Like you can create, for example, a product that no one wants, as we have seen, for example, with Google Glass and with Apple Newton. So these companies have spent huge amount of R&D on products that no one actually in the end used, and they did not successfully amortize this kind of cost, and it hit the company's P&L in the end. So going with intuition, as much as it's really nice to think of several ideas and generate ideas, but if you don't follow a structured process, you increase the risk of your product to finally fail for several reasons. And one of them is that it's a product that no one actually wants to buy because it does not solve someone's problem, or it is a very complicated and costly product versus its substitutes. Does that answer your question, Mohammed?
Yes, I agree with you. I mean, there are lots of pitfalls, you know, that I mean, for a new startup company or an entrepreneur who is excited about, I mean, starting a new business, making a new product. I think there's lots of risk. Perhaps people might not follow like the evaluation, certain evaluation. As you said, I mean, you might end up like developing a product just because you think that this product is very cool or it's very nice, does not mean that there is a need for such a product. You need to listen to the voice of the customer, as you mentioned. I believe that there are other and lots of other pitfalls that you're not following a structured process. You might fall into one of these. So I agree with you that it's good to follow, I mean, such a process, which I think is based on like the best practice from people who have been practicing this for years and years in big companies. I think you perfectly answered this question. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Mohammed,
we have
there are few questions, right?
We have another question. Ahmed is asking if the bootcamp is including a certification for new product development, and he's asking about the how does it cost? He mean about the certification.
So basically, we're working now with PDMA so there will be a certification from the AUC regarding the attendance, and we're working with PDMA to get also a certificate for the people attending the workshop to have a certificate of let's say completion for new product development. So it will be something like a certificate of being I wouldn't say an expert, but being a professional in the product development body of knowledge.
Okay, I like this part, by the way. Okay, Hisham would like to thank you for your great presentation, and he would like to know how can we avoid failure of new product development?
So avoiding failure in new product development, I would say that there are three main points that you need to take into consideration. So the first point is that a company needs to have an innovation strategy. I would say that a company without innovation strategy is a company that's deemed to fail in its new product development initiatives. And based on this innovation strategy should not be something out of thin air. So you should have the mission of the company and its values and its vision, then driving the strategy, the corporate strategy. And from this corporate strategy, you get the innovation strategy following it to fulfill it. And based on this innovation strategy, you break it down into a new product development portfolio strategy and a new product development project strategy. And you have to make sure that every new product development initiative that you are taking is serving in the end the innovation strategy, and which is serving in the end the mission of the company. This is the first part. The second part is that when you go into a new product development initiative, you have to have something called product innovation charter. And this innovation charter, it's, let's say, for people who are experienced in project management, it's like the project charter. And in the innovation charter, you have several areas where you have the background, where you start talking about the background of the project, the focus, the scope, and everything. Then you have the focus of the project itself, any special guidelines. So this kind of charter is really important, and I can actually try to share with everyone here, if it's possible, the good timing that we have actually finished on, how we can activate this. So just give me a second here.
May I ask a question?
Yes, just give me a second. I'll just go through here fast. So you have the background, focus arena, golden objectives, and special guidelines. This is for the product innovation charter. And the other two things is the process that we talked about and the product portfolio. So ideally, you have to have a balanced portfolio that you put your projects and your initiatives into a sort of a balance. So you cannot have all your products, initiatives going into new to the world products, or all of them into something like an improvement of existing products without new products that are differentiating and they are technology upgrade or extensions. I hope that answered the question, Hisham. Yes, Tarek, you were asking a question. I'm sorry.
Yeah. First of all, thank you very much for your fantastic presentation. My question is, do you follow the same process in your company, Electrolux?
Yes, I would say that the Electrolux follows a similar innovation process. So ideally, in the new product development process, you start with the strategy, let's say, and this is what we're doing currently. And we have a full innovation process that goes from the ideation until the end, where we start in the beginning by identifying the customer pain point, investigating the customer pain point, and trying to doing much more of a market research to understand how we can solve this pain point in sort of a concept. And based on this concept, we try to link it to a certain technology that allows us to solve the customer pain point. I would say yes. I would say that I'm proud to be part of Electrolux who are actually following this, let's say, up to the standards.
But my understanding is most of the big companies or multinational companies follow almost the same processes. So what the difference between the process which Electrolux follows and Samsung, as example, follow?
I would say that the guidelines or the high level overview of because let's say it's a standard way. So all the let's say the successful companies are following the same guideline, but the difference is in the operational part or the inside of each step. So for example, during the innovation charter, you have different parts where you start to explore. You start to explore every aspect here. So each company can have different templates, different processes, but the guideline is still the same. You have to have some sort of an innovation charter. You have to have some sort of a portfolio management.
And what the correct or the criteria make some companies perform much better than others if they are at the same time follow the same processes?
I would say that their execution is much better. So I would say that, for example, some companies do much better research or market research than others, or use better resources, uses better technology like data analytics in analyzing the market trends. They understand the consumer trend much better. They are much faster in their product life cycle. So one of the most frustrating things that companies are facing nowadays is the product development life cycle. So some companies can take up to 1 or 2 or 3 years to get a new product in the market, while other companies can get it in under 6 months. And in this kind of fast execution, you have companies gaining much more market share and eating from the share of their competitors based on how excellent they are executing the process itself. So it's no secret that the process is almost the same, but the execution is different from one company to the other. Also, the culture of each company differs. So, for example, if you talk about the Korean companies like Samsung, LG, I would speak, for example, in the consumer goods industry, they have a sort of a strategy that they every 2.5 years, they do a complete refresh of their products, of the complete platform. Are following a global marketing campaigns, trends, where you see almost the same product that's in Egypt, is in Thailand, is in Europe, and they follow the same messaging. So I think the execution of each company is what makes them different, and how they execute it is what they make them more excellent than others.
And also how much they spent to cover this processes.
Yes, I would say that the budget, of course, is a major point, but I would like to stay out of the budget terminologies for the moment, because some companies put lots of money and they put it in the wrong places.
Yeah.
Other companies use smaller budget but use it efficiently, where they get much more value out of it. So I would say that yes, budget terms are a big concern, but it depends also on how you manage this kind of a budget. Because some companies can start hemorrhaging money in different countries, while it's best to study an entire region with similar culture or characteristics.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Just to add a little about the cash how to invest, manage the budget. I was working with a several startup in the last year. I saw most of them follow the burning cash strategy to burn all the liquidity or cash they have to offer the service they try to produce to the customer on a low rate. And when I ask them what will be your plan when you are out of cash, you have to raise the fees or the service payment or the service subscription for your end user, and that will create a resistance for the customer, because you make him for almost 1 year dealing with you with a rate a low rate above lower than your production cost. And the answer I said that we need to expand, but actually after 1 year, from 9 company, 6 of them out of the market. This is one example of the bad use of budget.
Yes.
We have 2 questions, another 2 questions. One of them is asking, what are the famous organization implementing a product development in Egypt from inception to launch? I know one. I know one.
And don't say Electrolux, huh?
I will say e-finance. Okay.
Well, okay, let's because I think if I said my own company, it would be some.
This is a very hard question.
Yeah.
Well, hi guys, this is Ayed. Hi, Saif. Thank you for the presentation. Well, this was my question actually. My concern out of it was is not about what are the organizations or the players in the market, whatever the industry is. I mean, what are the implementing companies like IBM and all those kind of technology companies and so on. In the sense is that they have a team, okay, in which they go to given company, like for instance, Electrosa. I know they have their own internal team, but for instance, okay, and they go first and they start to make a garage or start of kind of thinking, design thinking and workshops and so on, and they start to move on up to the launch of such a product. So is there's one of the companies here in Egypt that they have such let me say it a vision or a strategy for implementing such a thing, or people prefer to build their own teams from inside and start to build up on their own strategies and so on, and they start to collect 1 or 2 consultants who are already have hands-on experience or SMEs or what have you.
Yeah, I got your question. Let me just rephrase it. So what you mean is that do the companies in the market in different industries are using internal teams, or they are using or piggybacking on other consultant companies that drive their innovation up to a certain extent, where they actually get them from idea to launch instead of investing in their own teams? Is this your question in some sorts?
Yeah, actually my question is, I know that not all the companies have such, if any, what are the consultants?
I think she's asking what is a consulting firm that can offer this service. I think we have lost Ayat.
Yes. Well, let's say
I don't think that there is a market in
there
in
isn't
kind of this consultants.
there is none in the physical goods industry that I know of, but I think in maybe in software, some companies use their innovation process to support others. But I don't have something at the top of my head at the moment. But let me check and get back to you on this. Just send me an email. I will put again my contact information. I'll try to get you this information as soon as possible. But I think from product perspective, there is not a company that does this. But I would say from goods perspective, I think from services perspective, yeah, I think from services perspective, there are a couple. But I will tell you that in Egypt, this is not a trend. Maybe abroad it is, and I think that the main reason for this is the IP issue, so intellectual property. So lots of companies wouldn't get other consultancy to do their innovation process, especially on if it is a major launch. And I will tell you why, because even with a non-disclosure agreement, that we have several. I'm sorry to say this. We have several issues regarding the legislation of this in Egypt. So I think for companies in Egypt, they would prefer to do this their own, because doing this kind of legislation on IP, the laws and rules are not clearly defined, and you can go into courts for several years to fight this. So I would say it would not be a smart move in Egypt for the moment. But I think that going forward with what the government has been doing for the last 3 years, implementing rules and regulations on e-commerce, on digitalization, I think maybe looking 5 to 10 years from now, this would be the trend that companies are reducing cost by not subsidizing, by outsourcing their innovation process completely to consultancy companies that can drive this kind of innovation.
Yeah, and I think it's not only and also I guess the consulting is not only, as you said, it's not only about technology or providing the form in which the product would be launched on, but it's mainly about the need, and so this kind of need is needs actually SMEs. So maybe a consulting company would be very innovative and very good in the technology thing or the form thing, but it will not be having those SMEs in each and every industry, So maybe this
I'll tell you what. So if you heard the term open innovation, so what big companies are now doing, I'm not sure if it's really implemented in Egypt or not, but lots of major companies are now using open innovation because it's really expensive to do all of the R&D work to get your product out. So the open innovation concept allows you to try to partner either with a competitor, where you can do something like a joint venture, or with a small company that's specialized in a specific technology or a specific market trends analysis. So, for example, I think that going in the future, we can have a major company that's outsourcing its entire innovation process end to end. So you have a small company doing the market insights and trends and the analytics and the analysis, and giving this output to another company who's doing the concept generation, the concept testing, who's giving it to another company who's doing the development work itself. So I think this model is going to be in the market, maybe not now, maybe not 5 years from now, but I think going forward, this will become a trend because it's really expensive to do the complete product development, especially when you're doing it also in a physical good, not just on a service.
I have another question.
Thank you.
Okay. The question is, what are the chapter of the PDMA body of knowledge, and does it cover economic model of product design and development?
Okay, I just didn't get the first part of the question. What is
the first part was asking about the chapter of the PDMA body of knowledge, the development management association, the body of knowledge.
Okay, so the body of knowledge consists of 7 main areas, where you have the strategy, the new product process, the market research, tools and metrics, culture and people, and the portfolio management. So it covers 7 main areas. For example, when if you are talking also about similar body of knowledge like the PMI BIM guide, it also covers different knowledge areas. So what PDMA body of knowledge is covering 7 main knowledge areas. And when you're speaking about economical sense, what do you mean by this?
I think he's asking about the business model for the product design and development.
What do you mean by business model product development?
Usually, business modeling is about how to manage the cost and benefits from the process itself. What is the selling price, selling techniques? Has it got to be a subscription model? You know, the different types.
Yeah, I get it. Okay. So I would say that going this kind of detail. So in the body of knowledge, you will find lots of information, for example, about the portfolio management. But if you're talking about, for example, pricing itself, it's a specific knowledge area that I would say that it's not present in its own inside the body of knowledge, but the framework that the body of knowledge itself provides, that gives you, I wouldn't say a helicopter view, but it gives you the main knowledge areas that you need to understand in order to become an expert in product development. So when we speak about strategy, it gives you understanding what do we mean by strategy. And when we speak about innovation strategy and development strategy, how they are interlinked together. And also, when you say, for example, that what's meant by a first mover strategy. So this is the person that's incurring all the development costs to develop a certain technology or a certain product that's being launched in the market for the first time. So this is the PDMA body of knowledge. I think that certain specific topics related to, for example, voice of customer, business modeling, and such stuff are present inside the toolboxes that PDMA provides through their website. So in addition to the body of knowledge, there are 3 different toolboxes covering the innovation process from end to end. And there are specific essential books. For example, there is one book that's been launched only 2 years ago on design thinking, specializing on design thinking, and it's linked to product development. But I would really be, I would like, if the person who's asking can just send me an email also, and I can just give him a call, or we can chat on this just to answer his question in a proper way.
And of course, we have in the business analysis body of knowledge a huge chapter about financial analysis and the business modeling and all these issues that you'd like to know more about. I just received a WhatsApp message from someone asking me why the IIB Egypt chapter is doing a webinar with the Product Development Association in Egypt. My answer is simple and clear. The business analysis role is not focusing only on the software development. Our practitioners is around the world in different sectors, in different business lines, from defense to economical to airlines to aviation to product development in tangible product like home appliance, like medical equipment. All these business lines have a business analyst who will do the job to listen carefully to the end user needs and define these needs and designing a solution and a product that really change their life. I like this quote that Saif sent to me in the introduction briefing about the presentation, that he's passionate about developing a product that changes people's lives, and this is what we do in the business analysis practice. This is what our business analyst practitioners doing around the world. I hope that my answer was clear.
If I can add, Mohammed, just on building on what you're saying, I think that it has become really indispensable asset to have a business analyst in every project or every new product development process initiative. Because if you take it this way, if the project manager is the guardian or the captain of the ship, the business analyst is the navigator of the ship. So losing this kind of asset, I would say that lots of companies and in Egypt are not really, I wouldn't say appreciative, but don't really know what we mean by a business analyst, and they mix this role with other things. And I think that it's one of the main initiatives that IIBA will go on in the future. I hope, of course, that trying to change the perception of how companies perceive a business analyst and how important a business analyst can save money for a company. So if you have your requirements wrong, you will build a completely different and undesirable product. And I would quote that this is something that people have to think about. Getting your requirements correct, getting your requirements correctly from all your stakeholders, and I wouldn't say just the important ones, but the ones that will make a difference. Getting this correct will save you lots of money in reiteration. Simply.
Yes, thank you, Saif. We have been working on that a lot in the last 2 years, not only with the private companies, but also with the Egyptian government. And I'm very proud to say that the main digital transformation project running in Egypt now, in the core, in the middle of this project, we have a business analysis team who's taking charge all the requirement management and definition of solution to make sure that they are developed to serve people, not to use technology for using technology.
That's really good. Really good.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
So I don't think we have another question. Last question was asking. It's this question for you, Saif. The question is, how do you see the future of PDMA in Egypt and the region?
Yeah, well, I would say that I would see that PDMA in the next 3 years or 2 to 3 years vision is that having a fully established community in Egypt from different industries, networking events, having speakers doing different topics, learning, seeing this effect in different companies where they were launching products with no clear value proposition, changing the business model to have something in the market in a better way. So I would say that I would see that the future is really good for such an initiative. That at some point we will have a very big community of product managers, product development experts, people who aspire to work on this, and that we have also companies working with us into enhancing the development process and mindset in Egypt, that when you have a new product in the market, it has to be differentiated. It has to be done to change something for the better and to deliver some sort of a value that's missing inside the market itself.
I don't think we have another questions. This was the last question. Thank you, Saif, for your time, and thank you everyone for attending our webinar today. And I'm sure that we will have another webinar with Saif and the new board of the PDMA in Egypt. I'm sure that Saif will agree with me.
Thank you.
Yes,
Of course.
thank
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.